You're sitting at a rooftop bar in Thonglor, 3 Chang beers in, and the woman across from you is not what you expected. She has a marketing job at a Sukhumvit agency. She just came back from a work trip to Singapore, and she is asking you about your career plans with the kind of directness that makes you nervous. 2 nights later, you're in a completely different conversation, on a completely different saw with a woman who tells you within 20 minutes that her mother is sick and the rice harvest was bad this year. 2 different women, 2 different games. Most men never realize they are playing 2 or 3 completely separate games, and they apply the wrong rulebook to the wrong woman almost every single time. I am John. I have lived in Thailand for 22 years and watched the same situations play out hundreds of times. By the end of this video, you will be able to identify, within the first few conversations, which of the 3 realistic categories the woman in front of you falls into, and what that means for how the relationship will actually unfold. Before we continue, please subscribe to my channel so you do not miss any future videos. Let's start with the one that catches the most men off guard, because it looks nothing like what the forums warned them about. The first type is the provider-seeking woman, and I want to be precise about that term, because it is not an insult, it is an economic description. This is a woman, usually from a rural or lower middle-income background, often from Isan in the Northeast, or from a smaller town outside a tourist center, who has entered a relationship with a foreign man with the explicit or semi-explicit understanding that he will provide meaningful financial support. Not tips, not gifts, structural, recurring support, rent, a monthly allowance, money sent home. Western men miss this category constantly because they are looking for a single moment of confession, some scene where she sits him down and says, "I need money from you." That scene almost never happens. What happens instead is a slow accumulation of small requests that individually seem reasonable. Help with a phone bill, help with a sick buffalo, help with a sibling's school fees, until 18 months later, he has sent $9,000 or $10,000 and never once had an explicit conversation about what the relationship actually is. The absence of a single dramatic ask is precisely what allows the pattern to go unnoticed. Men are trained by movies and by their own culture to look for a con artist moment. This is not a con artist moment. It is a slow, culturally sanctioned drift. Here is the mechanism underneath it, and this is where you need to actually understand the system rather than just judge it. In much of rural Thailand, there is a concept called bun kun, a sacred, almost non-negotiable debt owed to one's parents for having given you life and raised you. A daughter who is in a position to support her parents financially and does not do so is not seen as independent. She is seen as failing a fundamental obligation, and the shame of that failure, inside her family and her village, is enormous. When she partners with a foreign man who has, by local standards, extraordinary income, the expectation that she will now channel some of that income home is not a scam in her mind. It is simply what a good daughter does when the opportunity arrives. Layer on top of this the concept of krangjai, the deeply ingrained habit of managing other people's emotional comfort, often at the cost of her own honesty, and you get a woman who will smooth over financial requests, minimize them, and avoid direct confrontation about money, because directness feels aggressive to her, and because she genuinely does not want to make you feel used. She may not even experience what she's doing as extraction. She experiences it as normal family duty happening to run through a foreign boyfriend's wallet. Picture this. You meet a woman working at a beer bar off Soy Cowboy, or you meet her socially through a friend and she happens to work at a spa in Pattaya. 3 weeks in, she's warm, attentive, seemingly uninterested in your money. She even insists on paying for her own lunch the first 2 times. By week 6, she mentions her mother's diabetes medication costs 2,000 baht a month, about $57, and could you help just this once? By month 4, you're covering her phone bill, sending 15,000 baht, around $425, home each month for her son's school, and paying her rent because it's easier than her going back and forth. You've never had a single conversation about whether this is a relationship, a sponsor arrangement, or something in between, because she has never made you feel like you needed to ask, and you have never wanted to look like the kind of man who counts baht in a relationship. What you do here is simple, though not easy. Name the arrangement out loud, early, before the numbers accumulate. Ask directly, not accusingly, whether she sees herself as your girlfriend or as someone you are financially supporting, because those are two different relationships with two different sets of expectations, and conflating them is what causes the resentment on both sides later. If you are comfortable being a sponsor, be a sponsor with clear, capped, agreed terms, a fixed monthly number, discussed like adults, rather than an open tap that grows every few months. If you want an actual partnership, watch whether she resists that clarity, because resistance to defining the relationship is itself the answer. The provider-seeking woman is not lying to you about her feelings necessarily. She is operating inside a financial obligation you have not been told exists, and until you name it, you will keep paying for a debt you didn't know you inherited. The second type is the one most Western men least expect to find in Thailand, and paradoxically, the one they are most unprepared to date well: the financially independent, urban professional woman. This is the marketing manager in Thonglor, the doctor in Chiang Mai, the woman who owns her own small business near Ari, the airline employee, the university-educated daughter of a middle-class Bangkok family. She does not need your money. In many cases, she earns more than the average expat teacher or digital nomad she's dating. She is dating you, if she is dating you at all, because she finds you interesting, because international relationships appeal to her, because she's tired of the dynamics she encounters with Thai men in her own social class, or simply because she likes you. Men miss this category by importing the wrong script wholesale from the forums and from the sex tourism adjacent parts of Bangkok, and then applying it to a woman who has never once asked him for anything. They over-explain their income. They act defensively the first time she mentions a coworker's expensive handbag, assuming it's a signal. They misread her directness, and urban Thai professional women, especially those with international education or corporate exposure, tend to be far more direct than the soft, deferential stereotype men expect, as either aggression or, worse, as evidence she must be after something, because why else would a Thai woman be direct? The irony is that the men who are most paranoid about being used financially often insult the one category of woman who was never going to ask them for a baht, simply by treating her with suspicion she did nothing to earn. The mechanism here runs almost opposite to the first type. This woman typically already carries her own version of bun kun toward her parents, but she discharges it through her own income, not yours. She may already be supporting her family and see that as entirely her responsibility, something she'd be uncomfortable having a boyfriend involved in at all. Face matters enormously to her, but in a different direction. Being seen as a woman who needs a foreign man's money would be a loss of face inside her social circle, not a gain. Her friends are professionals, some with international partners of their own, and the social currency in that circle is compatibility, shared lifestyle, and stability, not who is paying for dinner. I had a client last year, an American engineer relocated to Bangkok for work, who dated a Thai architect he met through mutual colleagues. He spent the first 2 months of the relationship bracing for a financial ask that never came, quietly resentful and suspicious, assuming she was simply better at hiding it than most. When he finally, clumsily, brought up money, asking if she needed help with anything, she was genuinely offended, not because she was hiding a need, but because the question implied she couldn't take care of herself. It nearly ended things. He had spent 2 months solving a problem that did not exist, and, in doing so, created a real one. If you find yourself with a woman in this category, the tactical shift is to drop the financial vigilance almost entirely and replace it with a different kind of attention. Does she introduce you to her friends and family the way a serious partner would be introduced? Does she talk about a future in concrete terms? Does she treat the relationship as equal rather than transactional in either direction? Split bills naturally where it makes sense. Do not perform wealth, and do not perform suspicion either. Both read as insecurity to a woman who has her own status and doesn't need yours. With this type, the risk was never your wallet. The risk was that your own defensiveness would convince a genuinely uninterested in your money woman that you saw her as a threat instead of a partner. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe now. I put a lot of these patterns together from real cases, and it genuinely helps more men find this channel before they need it, rather than after. I want to know honestly, which of these two have you already run into, or think you're in right now? Leave it in the comments. I read all of them. The third type sits in the space between the first two, and it is the category men misjudge most severely, because it requires holding two true things at once: genuine emotional need and financial need, arriving in the same person, at the same time, without either one canceling out the other. This is the woman coming out of a difficult domestic chapter, a divorce, a relationship with a Thai man that ended in financial abandonment, a single mother supporting a child largely alone, sometimes a former or current worker in Bangkok's entertainment industry, along Sukhumvit's side streets or in Pattaya, looking for genuine stability rather than another transactional arrangement. She is not performing neediness to extract money, the way a purely provider-seeking arrangement might drift toward. She is carrying real, structural precarity, often a child, often family debt, often no safety net, while also, sincerely, wanting to be loved and chosen by someone who will actually stay. Men misread this category in two opposite, equally damaging ways. Some men, spooked by warnings about bar girls and gold diggers, treat her financial reality as proof the whole relationship is fake, and they withhold commitment while still enjoying the intimacy, effectively getting the relationship without giving the partnership, which she experiences, correctly, as being used for companionship while her real needs are ignored. Other men swing the opposite direction, overwhelmed by sympathy for her situation, and become an instant ATM. The term used here for a foreign man, treated primarily as a walking source of cash, writing large checks in the first few months to prove his seriousness, without ever establishing whether the relationship itself is built to last. Both mistakes come from refusing to hold the complexity. She can love you and need your help simultaneously, and your job is not to decide which one is real, but to build a relationship where both are handled honestly. The mechanism here is layered. There is bunkun toward her child if she has one. A mother's debt is not to her parents but forward, to the next generation, and it is, if anything, felt even more intensely. There is often a prior experience with a Mia Noi arrangement, being treated as a minor wife, a secondary, less legitimate partner kept financially but not honored socially, which makes her acutely sensitive to any sign that you might be treating her the same way. And there is often genuine trauma around money itself, from a previous partner who promised support and disappeared, which means she may test your reliability in ways that look, on the surface, like she's fishing for cash, when she is actually checking whether you'll still be there in 6 months. Picture a case like this. An American man in his late 40s meets a single mother working as a hostess in a Sukhumvit restaurant, raising a 6-year-old daughter alone after her Thai husband left the country owing debts. Within 4 months, he's paying for the daughter's school, about 3,500 baht a month, roughly $100, and covering rent on a small apartment near Ekamai. He agonizes over whether this is love or arrangement dressed as love, and he never asks her directly, because he's afraid the honest answer will hurt him. What he doesn't do, and what would actually clarify everything, is stay long enough, consistently enough, to see whether her behavior changes once his money is no longer the newest, most exciting variable in the relationship. What you actually do here is give it time before you give it money at scale, and let consistency, not declarations, answer the question. Small, transparent support for a child's clear needs is different from open-ended, undefined support for her. Keep those two categories visibly separate in your own mind and in your spending. Watch what happens on the months you can't or don't send extra. Does the relationship's warmth toward you stay steady, or does it visibly cool? And have the direct conversation eventually, the same one from the first category. Are we building a future together? And if so, what does that actually look like in practical terms, not just affectionate ones? This is the category where the real answer is almost never a clean yes or no. It is usually both. In proportions that only reveal themselves over time, you have to be willing to invest before you invest money. What all three of these have in common is more revealing than the differences between them. In every case, the man's biggest error was never falling for the wrong woman. It was refusing to name, out loud and early, what kind of relationship he was actually in, treating an economic arrangement like a romance, treating a genuine partner like a suspect, or treating a complicated mix of both as if it had to resolve into one simple story before he could relax. Thailand did not create this confusion. It simply removes the social scaffolding, shared language, shared family expectations, shared assumptions about money and courtship, that normally forces those conversations to happen earlier back home. The deeper pattern is this. Every one of these women is operating rationally inside her own economic and cultural system. The provider-seeking woman is honoring a debt you don't share. The independent professional is protecting a status she built without you. The woman in the middle is trying to reconcile love and survival at the same time, because in her world, those two things were never as separable as they are in yours. None of them owe you an explanation of which category they're in. That work is yours to do, through observation, direct questions, and time, not assumption. Here is the truth bomb worth remembering. The men who get hurt in Thailand are rarely the ones who dated the wrong type of woman. They're the ones who never figured out which type they were actually dating until it was too late to ask the right questions. Once you understand this framework, something shifts operationally in how you move through this. You stop reading every act of generosity as either proof of love or proof of a scam, and you start reading it as data, one data point among many, collected over months, not days. You ask direct questions earlier, calmly, the way you'd ask a business partner about expectations, because that directness is not romantic weakness. It is the single fastest way to find out which relationship you're actually in before your money and your heart are both fully committed. Creating these videos takes real time alongside my consulting work, so if this was useful, please support the channel by subscribing. It tells the algorithm to show this to other men who need it. See you in the next video.